Let's begin with the foundations. Welcome to another lecture. Today we examine Issa Diop, a modern centre-back whose career threads through Toulouse, West Ham United and Fulham, whose international story traverses France's youth system and a senior switch to Morocco. I'm Alexei. With me is Priyanka. Together we will try to disentangle the football, the law, and the human choices that sit behind the headlines.
Hi, I'm Priyanka. I'm excited to learn from this case because it feels like a neat window into how rules, identity, and performance meet on a big stage.
To frame our discussion, let's define the role. A centre-back is the game's central firewall. In simpler terms, the person you expect to be where danger coalesces in the box. Think of a rook in chess, vertical and horizontal dominance, clearing lanes, controlling airspace. Issa Diop specifically is a right-sided centre-back noted for aerial prowess and speed. These attributes allow him to recover into depth when a high line is breached, and to attack set pieces in the opposition area.
So, I guess we can start by thinking about basic terms. A cap is just an appearance for a national team. A clean sheet is when your team concedes 0, and a set piece is a restart like a corner or a free kick, where, timing and jumping matter a lot for someone like Diop. Is that fair?
Clearly, and in slightly more technical idiom, when analysts describe a defender's profile, they often index aerial duel win rates, recovery sprints into the defensive third, and expected threat from set-piece participation. Diop's career narrative repeatedly references those domains. 442, for instance, characterized him as a tremendous athlete, excellent in the air and quick across the ground. This aligns with his formative Toulouse seasons under relegation pressure and subsequent Premier League displays that drew notice, including Jose Mourinho's public praise after West Ham's 3-1 victory over Manchester United in 2018. Moving forward, why does this matter now? First, dual nationality careers have become common. FIFA's eligibility rules and one-time switches shape national team rosters in consequential tournaments. Second, player safety is not a rhetorical flourish. The introduction of concussion substitutes, where Diop was the first in English football in February 2021, signals institutional learning from medical evidence. We observe new norms about removing doubt, rather than removing risk by wishful thinking.
And I think fans track this because eligibility and safety choices affect who we see on the pitch and for how long. It's not just governance, it's the storylines we care about week to week.
Let's start with the history. Issa Lucas Jean Diop was born in January 1997 in Toulouse. Father Senegalese, mother Moroccan. Grandfather Libas Diop is recognized as the first Senegalese footballer in Ligue 1 with Bordeaux. An intergenerational through line that, if you will, sets an expectation that football is a family grammar. In 2006, he moved from Balma SC to the Toulouse Academy. By 2013, he had France U16 recognition, and then steady youth caps through the age groups. In September 2015, he began training with the Toulouse first team. In November 2015, he signed his first professional contract and debuted in Ligue 1 at age 18 against Nice, playing the full match. Days later, in December 2015, he scored his first senior goal in a 3-0 win at Troyes. The 2015-2016 season was a crucible. 21 league appearances, 8 clean sheets contributed, 2 red cards. Toulouse survived relegation on the final day, which tells us something about youthful aggression and accelerated learning under pressure.
Isn't it interesting how early responsibility followed? He wins the 2016 UEFA European Under-19 Championship with France, even scores in the final, and makes the team of the tournament. Then, 2016-2017, he plays 30 Ligue 1 matches. April 2017, he's handed the armband. By October, he is club captain. For a defender in his early 20s, that's like a lot of trust.
Indeed. 2017-2018 saw Toulouse reach the Coupe de France quarterfinals and then preserve Ligue 1 status via a playoff over AC Ajaccio in May 2018. The next structural change arrives in June 2018. West Ham United sign him on a 5-year deal. The fee was undisclosed, but British media reported approximately £22 million, and the club described it as a record at the time, surpassing the 2017 outlay on Marko Arnautovic. We should note, as always, that undisclosed means estimates, not exactitudes. In August 2018, he makes his Premier League debut at Arsenal. West Ham lose 3-1 and he scores an own goal, becoming the first West Ham player to do so on a Premier League debut. 3 days later, he scores in the EFL Cup against AFC Wimbledon after West Ham had conceded early. They win 3-1. Resilience, we observe, often announces itself in midweek.
I like that. Midweek redemption. And then, in February 2019, he scores his first Premier League goal versus Fulham, which is a nice twist because he later joins them.
During the pandemic period, we note that in September 2020, he withdrew from an EFL Cup squad after a positive COVID-19 test. And in February 2021, in an FA Cup tie against Manchester United, he became the first concussion substitute in English football, replaced by Ryan Fredericks. West Ham later reported no adverse effects, and David Moyes praised the medical staff. Subsequently, with Craig Dawson and Kurt Zouma arriving, his minutes became less constant in 2021-2022. In August 2022, he transfers to Fulham on a 5-year contract. He debuts shortly thereafter in a League Cup defeat at Crawley Town. And in October 2022, he scores his first Fulham goal in a 2-2 draw with Bournemouth. Later, in June 2023, a legal allegation surfaces. La Dépêche du Midi reported that he had been taken into custody in Toulouse for alleged death threats against a former partner. We should be precise. The report records the allegation in custody. It does not establish a judicial outcome here.
And then a fast-moving 2026 unfolds. In March 2026, he's announced in the Morocco setup for the first time. Later that month, FIFA approves the one-time switch from France since he had no competitive senior caps there. In May 2026, he scores a header for Fulham in a 2-0 win over Newcastle. That same month, he's named to Morocco's World Cup squad. And in June 2026, he scores a stoppage-time equaliser against the Netherlands in Mexico. Morocco win the shootout 3-2, and he's man of the match. That's a lot of punctuation in a few weeks.
In fact, this brings us to larger questions. Personally, I'm interested in how his path illustrates 3 interlocking systems: the globalization of talent and identity, the governance mechanisms that adjudicate eligibility, and the risk framework of player safety. If you will, one career as a compact syllabus.
So yeah, moving on. Can we lay out the 3 questions we'll use to think further?
Let's proceed to the next point. First, the historical question. Why and how did Diop switch from France to Morocco? And what does it tell us? Second, a counterfactual. What might have happened without concussion substitute protocols, both for him and for the sport? Third, an open question. Where is international eligibility likely to evolve, and how might it shape player decisions going forward? On the first, the build-up is linear. Diop is born in France. He accrues significant youth caps for France and publicly reaffirms France in October 2018. Yet crucially, he never plays a competitive senior match for them. FIFA's framework permits a one-time switch if a player with multiple nationalities has not been cap-tied by competitive senior appearances. In March 2026 Morocco call, FIFA approves the switch that month. Within weeks he is in a World Cup squad and scoring in knockout football against the Netherlands, earning man of the match. We can infer both opportunity and fit, minutes available, tactical role, and the meaning of representing his maternal heritage.
I'm curious about the human texture here. What does it feel like to change national teams after years with another system? I know we can't read minds, but identity isn't just a spreadsheet. Does the timing, moving close to a World Cup, add pressure or clarity?
It's important to understand that the written record captures structures better than sentiments, but typical motivations, as the literature and interviews with other dual nationals suggest, include family heritage, likelihood of selection, the chance to play a leadership role rather than be a depth option, and the appeal of contributing to an emergent project. The 2026 sequence hints at both professional calculus, immediate meaningful minutes, and personal resonance. Scoring a stoppage time equalizer in a World Cup knockout match is an experience that binds athlete and national cohort rather quickly. In simpler terms, the switch aligned incentives, identity, and stage. Let's transition to another aspect, the counterfactual of concussion protocols. In February 2021, Diop became the first concussion substitute in English football. The medical team acted conservatively, and he was replaced. If English football had not instituted such substitutes, we might have seen the old pattern. The player continues, symptoms are minimized, and risk accumulates. Second impact phenomena are well documented in the literature. The harm is asymmetric and latent. Protocols change incentives. They remove the team's fear of being numerically disadvantaged for doing the right thing. They normalize caution.
From a broader lens, what did that first substitution unlock? Like, did being the first case help other players later feel less stigma? And what does it do to match dynamics when you can make a specific safety-related change?
Arguably, yes, visibility matters. When procedures debut in a high-profile match, they move from policy document to cultural practice. Coaches and players update their priors. Supporters see that caution is not weakness, and administrators gain feedback on implementation. In match dynamics, a designated concussion substitute limits the perverse incentive to keep a dazed defender on the pitch merely to preserve substitution flexibility. Diop's case, coupled with his manager's public endorsement of the medical decision, reinforced that medical authority can and should supersede competitive anxiety. On to our next point, the open question of eligibility's future. Dual and even triple nationality players are now a structural feature. Diop was eligible for France, Morocco, and Senegal. Current FIFA rules allow a one-time switch under defined conditions. Challenges include competitive balance, perceptions of talent shopping, and the timeline of youth commitments. Potential regulatory evolutions could clarify windows for decisions, tighten or relax age thresholds, or standardize federation obligations around player integration to mitigate purely opportunistic recruitment. We will need rigorous comparative data before prescribing changes. Sports law scholarship here is still assembling a baseline.
Can we say that these rules quietly shape careers early? Like, if you are a teenager choosing a youth cap, you might keep optionality in mind, or you might commit because it feels right in the moment. How should a player think about that trade-off?
Mathematically, this is an options problem under uncertainty. A player maximizes expected career utility across scenarios. probability of senior selection, likely role, tournament exposure, developmental environment, and personal identity satisfaction, which is hard to quantify but not negligible. Prudent counsel is to understand the rules precisely and to delay irreversible commitments until the signal is stronger. Yet there is also value in belonging early to a project that invests in you. Research-wise, we need longitudinal data sets linking early eligibility choices to senior minutes, tournament participation, and career earnings. Only then can we say more than anecdote.
That was helpful to think through, actually. And Diop's late but impactful switch kind of exemplifies why the one-time switch exists in the first place. It kept a talented player in the international game at a high level.
In conclusion, Issa Diop is a right-sided center-back whose aerial dominance and recovery pace have been consistent signatures from Toulouse to Fulham. He captained Toulouse at a notably young age, endured a Premier League debut own goal and answered immediately. Scored set-piece goals including his first Premier League strike in 2019 and a late-season Fulham header in May 2026. Became the first concussion substitute in English football in 2021. And after a one-time switch from France, scored a stoppage-time World Cup equalizer for Morocco against the Netherlands in June 2026, earning man of the match. We asked 3 questions. Why and how the international switch occurred, what concussion protocols change, and where eligibility rules may go next. For further study, consider the role of player agents in transfers and international decisions, how information, incentives, and timing are managed, especially when fees are undisclosed and narratives are fluid.
So I guess that kind of sums it up. Thank you for listening, and thank you, Professor.
This, then, completes our present analysis. Until next time.